Disclaimer: this content is for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought one night could change everything. It started just like any other evening. My husband was out of town for a business trip, something that had become routine over the years. We had been married for 6 years, and while things weren't always perfect, we had built a life together based on trust and understanding. Or so I thought. That night, his best friend Daniel stopped by unexpectedly. He and my husband had been close since college, practically like brothers. Over the years, I had grown to know Daniel well. He was charming, always cracking jokes, and had this effortless way of making people feel comfortable. I never saw him as anything more than a family friend, someone who was always around at gatherings, someone I trusted. When I opened the door, he smiled, holding up a bottle of wine. "I figured you could use some company while Alex is away," he said casually. I hesitated for a moment but eventually let him in. After all, it wasn't unusual for him to stop by, and I didn't want to be rude. We sat in the living room, talking about random things: work, travel, life. The conversation flowed easily, and before I knew it, time had slipped away. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was just the comfort of familiar company. But for the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen, like someone was actually listening to me. My husband and I had been distant lately, caught up in our own worlds, and Daniel seemed to notice things Alex hadn't in months. Then something shifted. It was subtle at first, a lingering glance, the way his hand brushed against mine when he passed me the glass. I laughed it off, telling myself I was overthinking. But then his voice lowered, his eyes holding a look I hadn't expected. "I've always wondered something," he said, his tone unreadable. I swallowed hard, my heartbeat quickening. "Wondered what?" He leaned in just slightly, a small smirk on his lips. "What if things had been different? What if we had met first?" His words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. I felt a strange mix of emotions: confusion, nervousness, something else I couldn't quite name. Was this just harmless teasing, or was there something more? What happened next? I still don't know how to explain, but in that moment I realized that some boundaries, once crossed, could never be undone. What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. Would you have seen it as just a joke, or was there something deeper behind his words? Vote in the poll and tell me. Should I have ended the conversation right there? Stay tuned for the next part, because things only got more complicated from here. I froze for a second, my mind racing. His words lingered in the air between us, carrying a weight I wasn't prepared for. My heart pounded as I searched for the right response, something casual that wouldn't make things awkward. But before I could say anything, Daniel leaned back with a chuckle, shaking his head. "Relax," he said, swirling the wine in his glass. "I was just messing with you." I forced a laugh, but something about his tone felt off. Was he really joking, or was he testing the waters? I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was overthinking. Maybe I was just being paranoid because of how lonely I had been lately. Maybe it was harmless. But the way he looked at me, it was different now, more intense. I stood up, suddenly feeling the need to put some distance between us. "I should probably clean up," I said, grabbing the empty plates from the coffee table. Daniel watched me for a moment before setting his glass down. "Let me help." Before I could refuse, he was already beside me in the kitchen, reaching for the dishes in my hands. His fingers grazed mine, lingering just a little too long. I pulled away quickly, forcing a smile. "Thanks, but I got it," I said, turning toward the sink. For a few moments, the only sound in the room was the water running as I rinsed the plates. I could feel his eyes on me, but I pretended not to notice. My thoughts were a mess. Was I imagining all of this? Was I reading too much into things? Then he spoke again. You know, Alex is lucky, he said softly. I turned to look at him, confused. What do you mean? He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. To have someone like you, a woman who actually listens, who cares. Not everyone gets that in a marriage. A strange feeling settled in my chest. I didn't know what to say. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the counter, breaking the tension. I grabbed it quickly, relieved for the distraction. It was a message from Alex. Hey, just landed. Miss you. Talk soon. I exhaled, gripping the phone tightly. My husband, the man I had built a life with. But why did I suddenly feel like something between Daniel and me had shifted in a way I couldn't ignore? What would you have done in my place? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for the next part because this story is far from over. I put my phone down, my mind still tangled in Daniel's words. There was something about the way he had said it, casual yet careful, as if testing my reaction. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that he was just being friendly. But deep down, I knew there was something more. The air between us had changed. Even as I moved around the kitchen, pretending everything was fine, I could feel his presence, his eyes following me. My instincts told me to end the night right there, to make an excuse and have him leave. But I hesitated. Why? Maybe because, for the first time in a long time, someone was noticing me. Really noticing me. I wiped my hands on a towel and turned around, trying to keep my voice light. I should probably get some rest. It's getting late. Daniel tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. For a second, I thought he might push the conversation further, but then he smiled, stepping back. Of course, I didn't mean to overstay. I walked him to the door, relieved yet unsettled. As he stepped out, he hesitated, looking at me as if he wanted to say something else. But instead, he just gave me a small nod. Good night. I closed the door, exhaling. My heart was still racing, but I didn't know why. It wasn't like anything had actually happened. But then, why did it feel like something had? That night, I tossed and turned in bed, my thoughts refusing to settle. Alex's message replayed in my mind. Miss you. Talk soon? Guilt crept in, though I hadn't done anything wrong. But it wasn't about what had happened. It was about what I had felt. The next morning, I tried to shake it off, focusing on my usual routine. But as I scrolled through my phone at breakfast, a notification caught my eye, a message from Daniel. Hey, had a great time catching up last night. Hope I didn't say anything out of line. I stared at the screen, debating how to respond. A simple, no worries, all good, would keep things neutral. But part of me wondered, did he really think he had said something wrong? Or was this another test? I typed out a reply, but before I could send it, another message popped up. This time from Alex. Change of plans. Flight got delayed. Won't be home until tomorrow night. I bit my lip, staring at the screen. The house suddenly felt quieter, emptier. I should have been disappointed that Alex wouldn't be home sooner. And yet, a small, unspoken thought crept in, one I wasn't proud of. Would Daniel reach out again? I pushed the thought away and set my phone down, trying to focus on my day. But the truth was, things weren't going back to normal. Not after last night. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. What do you think will happen next? Drop your predictions in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for part 4, because things are only getting more complicated from here. I spent the rest of the morning trying to distract myself, cleaning up, scrolling through my phone, even watching a random show in the background. But no matter what I did, my mind kept circling back to Daniel's message. I hadn't replied yet. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just making a big deal out of nothing. By noon, I finally typed a quick response. No worries, all good. It was nice catching up. Simple, neutral, safe. Almost immediately, the little typing dots appeared. Then his reply came through. Glad to hear that. I actually left something at your place last night. Mind if I swing by and grab it? I hesitated, rereading his message. I tried to remember if he had left anything behind, but nothing came to mind. My heart pounded a little harder, though I wasn't sure why. It was just a simple request. But was it? I could say no. I could make up an excuse. But before I could stop myself, I typed, "Sure, let me know when you're coming." The moment I hit send, I regretted it. Why had I agreed so quickly? Maybe because a part of me wanted to see him again, even if I refused to admit it. An hour later, there was a knock at the door. I took a deep breath before opening it. There he was, standing there, relaxed, but with that same unreadable expression from last night. "Hey," he said, stepping inside. "Hey," I echoed, suddenly feeling self-conscious. He glanced around. "I think I left my jacket somewhere." I frowned, trying to recall. "I don't remember seeing it." He gave a small chuckle. "Guess I just needed an excuse to see you again." His words sent a jolt through me. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or feel nervous. He wasn't even pretending anymore. "You didn't need an excuse," I said before I could stop myself. His gaze met mine, and for a second the room felt smaller, the space between us disappearing. The tension was thick, unspoken words hanging in the air. Then my phone buzzed. I instinctively reached for it. It was Alex. "Call me when you get a chance. Need to talk." I swallowed hard, my grip tightening around the phone. Daniel was still watching me, his expression unreadable. What was I supposed to do now? Tell me in the comments. What would you do in my situation? Stay tuned for the next part, because things are about to take a turn no one saw coming. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. Alex's message felt heavier than usual. Need to talk. What did that mean? Was something wrong? Did he sense something? Guilt tightened in my chest, but before I could respond, Daniel took a step closer. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded quickly, slipping my phone into my pocket. "Yeah, it's just Alex. He wants to talk." Daniel's jaw tensed for a brief moment, but he covered it with a smirk. "Guess that means I should get going, huh?" I should have agreed. I should have opened the door and let him leave. But I didn't. Instead, I hesitated, and in that pause, the tension between us thickened. He noticed it too. "You sure you're okay?" he asked again, softer this time. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I trailed off, not even knowing what I was trying to say. Then, before either of us could speak again, my phone buzzed once more. Another message from Alex. "Forget calling. I'm coming home early. Be there in a few hours." I felt my stomach drop. A few hours? He was supposed to be back tomorrow night. Why the sudden change? And why did this feel like the worst possible timing? Daniel must have noticed my reaction because his eyes darkened slightly. "That's unexpected," he said. I forced a laugh, trying to shake off the unease creeping over me. "Yeah, I guess his plans changed." He studied me for a second, then nodded. Then I should really go. But neither of us moved. The weight of the moment was suffocating. Something was happening here, something neither of us was willing to say out loud. If I had asked him to stay, would he have? If he had leaned in closer, would I have stopped him? Before anything could happen, my phone rang, breaking the silence. Alex. I jumped at the sound and quickly grabbed it, stepping away from Daniel as if that would somehow clear the tension. "I should take this," I said, avoiding his gaze. Daniel nodded, his expression unreadable. "Of course." He moved toward the door, pausing just for a second before opening it. "Take care, okay?" I barely managed a nod before pressing the phone to my ear. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. Alex's voice was calm but firm. Hey, listen, we need to talk when I get home. Something in his tone sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't his usual tired from travel voice. This was different, sharper. I forced a smile, though he couldn't see me. Okay, everything all right? A pause. Then, we'll talk when I get there. The call ended, leaving me standing there, my breath caught in my throat. Did he know? Had something happened? Or was this about something else entirely? Tell me in the comments, what do you think Alex wants to talk about? And what should I do now? Stay tuned because this story is about to take a turn no one expected. I paced around the living room, my thoughts racing. Alex's tone on the phone lingered in my mind. We need to talk. Those words echoed like a warning. My stomach twisted with unease. What did he know? Or was it something else entirely? Daniel was gone now, but his presence still lingered in the air, making it hard to breathe. I replayed the night before in my head, his lingering glances, his words, the moment where everything could have gone too far. But nothing happened, at least not yet. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway sent my heart into overdrive. Alex was home. I rushed to check my reflection in the mirror, trying to compose myself, as if my face might somehow reveal the confusion and guilt swirling inside me. The front door opened, and there he was, my husband. His expression was unreadable, his usual warmth absent. He set his bag down slowly, locking eyes with me. We need to talk, he repeated, his voice calm but heavy. I swallowed, forcing a smile. Yeah, of course. What's going on? He let out a breath, running a hand through his hair. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. My heart pounded. I nodded, but my palms were already sweating. He hesitated, then spoke. Did Daniel come over last night? For a split second, I considered lying, but something in Alex's eyes told me he already knew. My breath hitched. Yes, I admitted. He stopped by for a little while. Alex clenched his jaw, his eyes searching mine. Did anything happen? I shook my head quickly. Nothing happened. It wasn't a lie, but it didn't feel like the whole truth either. He exhaled, nodding slowly. Then, after a moment, he pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. My stomach dropped as he turned it toward me. A message thread was open, with Daniel. And there it was, a text from Daniel, sent this morning. Hey man, just wanted to be up front. I came over last night. I know I crossed a line, and I regret it. I didn't mean to disrespect you or your marriage. I guess I let my feelings get the best of me. I'm sorry. The room felt like it was spinning. Alex watched me closely. So, nothing happened? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I felt exposed, cornered. I didn't know he sent that, I whispered. Alex's jaw tightened. But he wasn't wrong, was he? Tears burned at the back of my eyes. I didn't know what to say. I had never crossed the line physically, but emotionally, that was another story. Before I could respond, Alex's phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I think she has feelings for me too. Everything inside me shattered. What do you think happens next? Should Alex forgive me, or is this the end of our marriage? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because this story isn't over yet. I stood there, frozen, as Alex's eyes bore into me, waiting for an answer I couldn't give. The weight of Daniel's message hung in the air, suffocating me. I think she has feelings for me, too. The words felt like a betrayal. Even though they had come from someone else, they forced me to face something I had been avoiding. Alex's grip tightened around his phone. So, is it true? His voice wasn't angry, but there was something worse in it. Hurt. I swallowed hard. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I never meant for any of this to happen. He exhaled sharply, stepping back as if he needed space to process. But it did. Silence stretched between us, heavy and unbearable. I wanted to say something, to explain that I never asked for Daniel's attention, that I never planned for this. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the point. The fact that I had even hesitated, that I had allowed myself to feel something, was already enough. I just, I don't know what to do with this, Alex finally said, his voice raw. I trusted both of you. I wiped at my eyes, feeling the sting of tears. I love you, Alex. I don't want to lose us. He studied me for a long time before nodding slowly. I need time. And just like that, he grabbed his keys and walked out the door. I stood there in the empty house, feeling the full weight of everything that had happened. The walls that had once felt safe now felt like a reminder of all the cracks that had been forming long before last night. A few days passed with no word from Alex. When he finally called, his voice was calm but distant. I'm coming home, but we need to figure out where we stand. That was when I realized this wasn't just about Daniel. This was about us, the distance, the loneliness, the things we had stopped saying to each other. Maybe this moment had been inevitable. Would we fix things? Could we? I didn't know, but one thing was clear. Something between us had changed, and there was no going back. What do you think? Should Alex forgive me, or is our marriage beyond saving? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want a sequel to find out what happens next.